Is music haram in Islam? Among the four main madhabs, two say it is not haram. Yet when we look at the most popular preachers on YouTube and social media, we often hear the same thing repeated. Music is haram. But this is not the opinion shared by all Islamic scholars. Great scholars like Imam Ghazali, Ibn Hazm, Ibn Arabi, and Mevlana Rumi said that music is halal, or at least allowed when it benefits the heart. Even well-known speakers such as Numan Ali Khan and Yasser Qadi clearly say the evidence is debatable and not all music can be considered haram. Yet they are often criticized harshly for saying this. There is no direct ban on music in the Quran, though some tafsirs describe it as haram, and the hadiths on this topic are open to different interpretations. So there is no agreement. Throughout history, there have always been different opinions. Today, the Salafi and Wahhabi view has become more popular on YouTube, giving the false impression that there is only one opinion. But this is dangerous. It hides the richness of Islam and makes the religion look narrow, strict, and radical. Verses and hadiths are taken in a very limited way, pushing young people and new Muslims away from the faith. In this piece, we will look together at the verses and hadiths about this topic. Even if you already have your own opinion, please stay until the end to understand the full picture. The four madhabs on MUSI. So what makes this topic difficult is not the issue itself, but the way it is presented by some scholars close to extremist groups who have become popular on YouTube. They act as if Islam clearly declares music to be haram and make it sound like all four Sunni madhabs agreed on this. But the truth is very different. Among the four madhabs, Maliki and Hanbali say it is haram, while Hanafi and Shafi do not. When someone claims music is haram in Islam, it sounds manipulative, as if the number of true madhabs was reduced to two and the other two don't exist. It makes people wonder, have two madhabs suddenly been removed? Why are their opinions never mentioned? Many people believe what they hear in fatwa videos without questioning. But earlier Islamic scholars, when giving a fatwa, always considered the opinions of other madhabs as well. It is understandable that Maliki and Hanbali brothers and sisters may not know about other opinions, because in their madhabs music is mostly considered haram, and that is what they grew up hearing. When popular YouTube preachers support this idea, their belief becomes stronger, and then they start accusing Muslims from other madhabs of committing haram. This leads to division and conflict. Today we will not only explain that music is not considered haram in the Hanafi and Shafi madhabs, but also look at how hadiths, Quran verses, and many great Islamic scholars offer different interpretations. Islam is growing in the West, and many people are becoming Muslim. Opinions from past centuries, where some scholars forbade music due to their own social conditions, cannot be forced on Muslims living in today's world. In the past, music was mostly used in gatherings with alcohol and sin, so some scholars declared haram. But today, music is used in Islamic films, series, and nashts. It has become a way to remember Allah, strengthen emotions, and bring people closer to faith. Even in those early centuries, great scholars like Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ghazali, Mevlana Rumi, Ibn Arabi, and Ibn Hazm did not call music haram. They considered it either makruh, disliked, or mubah, permissible, depending on content and environment. Especially in the Shafi tradition, Imam Ghazali saw music as a means to bring the heart closer to Allah. He said that when music benefits the heart, it is mubah, even mustahab, recommended. The Quran and Hadith, some scholars said that in the Quran, music is mentioned as one of the blessings of paradise. In Surah Rum, verse 15, Allah says those who believe and do righteous deeds will be in a garden enjoying happiness. Scholars such as Yahya ibn Kathir, Al-Azai, and Waqi interpreted the word yubarun in this verse as joy and song, as mentioned in Tabari's Jami al-Bayan and Abu Hayyan's Bar al-Mu'at. Ibn Hazm pointed to Surah Baqarah, verse 29, "It is Allah who created everything on earth for you." In Surah An'am, verse 119, Allah has made clear to you what He has forbidden. Saying these verses mean everything on earth was created for human benefit. Unless a specific text, NAS, forbids something, it remains halal. Since there is no verse or hadith that directly bans music, it cannot be haram. He also explained that actions depend on intentions. If someone listens to music to disobey Allah, they become sinful. But if the intention is good, there is no sin. According to authentic narrations, the Prophet forbade music that led to sin but allowed music that carried no harm. Aisha, R.A., said, "On an Eid day, two girls were singing and playing the daf in my house. When Abu Bakr, R.A., came in, he disapproved. The Prophet said, 'Leave them. It is a day of Eid.'" Bukhari, Adab 2. In another narration, Aisha, R.A., said that when she married off a woman from the Ansar, the Prophet said, "Aisha, there was no entertainment at our wedding. The Ansar love amusement." Bukhari, Nikah 63. It was also narrated from Amir Saad. "I went to Karaza ibn Kabi and Abu Masudi al-Ansari on the occasion of a wedding. A young girl was singing there. I said, 'You are companions of the Messenger of Allah and from the people of Badr. How can this be happening in your presence?' They replied, 'You may stay or leave.' We were allowed to have joy at weddings." Nasa, Nikah 80. Another narration from Tirmidhi says, "Announce the marriage, perform in the mosques, and play the daf during the nikah." Ibn Hajar narrated from Al-Muhallab that this hadith shows announcing weddings with the daf and permissible songs is allowed. In Umdat al-Kari, he wrote, "The scholars agreed that during wedding feasts it is permissible to have entertainment accompanied by the daf and similar instruments." It was also narrated from Salama ibn al-Aqwa, "We were traveling with the Prophet to Khaybar. Someone said to Amir ibn al-Aqwa, 'Sing something for us.' So Amir started singing. The Prophet said, 'May Allah have mercy on Amir.'" Bukhari, Magazine 38. When the Prophet migrated to Medina, the people welcomed him with a Nash Tala al-Badru Elena. This was also a musical expression, and it was never forbidden. Music in Islamic historical sources mention that the great companion Abd Allah ibn Jafar listened to songs and even composed music himself, showing that music existed among the companions and was judged according to purpose and context. Music that did not distract the heart from Allah, did not contain immoral words, and did not harm the spirit of worship was accepted. In the generation after the companions, opinions began to differ. Some scholars, such as Sa'idi ibn al-Muzayyib and Hassan al-Basri, considered music makruh or haram because during their time music was often used in gatherings of drinking and immorality. However, many Tabi'in scholars and early Sufis saw music as permissible when it softened the heart and increased love for worship. During the Umayyad, Abbasid, Seljuk, and Ottoman periods, music played a major role in social life, used in art, military contexts, and medical therapy. In the Islamic world, especially during the Ottoman Empire, music was used as treatment for mental illness at a time when the West was neglecting and sometimes executing mentally ill people as witches. During the Abbasid era, Baghdad became the musical center of the Islamic world. In the Seljuk period, in Mevlevi and other Sufi orders, Sima, Daikar, and Naqsh were central. In the Ottoman Empire, even the sultans were interested in music. Sultan Selim III was a composer, and Sultan Abdulhamid II played the piano while also being known as a devout believer and spiritual master. When we come to modern times, something interesting stands out. The famous musician Yusuf Islam, Cat Stevens, completely abandoned music after becoming Muslim because some groups who guided him held extreme views and he believed music was haram. But years later, after studying other madhabs, he realized there was no absolute ruling declaring all music haram. He eventually picked up his guitar again. If he performs in Europe and sings songs that remind people of Allah and spread Islamic values, wouldn't that inspire people and attract youth to Islam? Would the scholars of the past, if they live today, still hold the same opinions? When they gave their fatwas, did they not consider the conditions of their era? Even acts of worship like salah can be haram at specific times, such as when the sun is directly overhead or after sunrise. Fasting is haram on days like Eid. If even worship can become haram depending on time and situation, the same principle applies to music. Music was considered haram within certain conditions, but today, when music is used to remind people of Islam, faith in Allah, It is not only permissible, but something that should be supported. Everyone remembers the movie The Message, Our Risala. Didn't its music move people deeply? Before the film was made, Al-Azhar University was consulted for fatwas about it. When music is used to convey Islamic meaning, lift the soul, and bring hearts closer to Allah, it should be used. Imam Ghazali says it is not possible to fully summarize everything Imam Ghazali discussed in Ihya Ulum al-Din, but we can highlight the most important points. According to him, Sama is something that moves the heart, inspires it, and awakens meanings that already exist within the heart but are not yet active. A positive definition that shows Ghazali saw music as spiritually beneficial. He first presents the different opinions of the companions and the Tabi'in, discusses Imam Shafi'i's view, who considered some forms of music makruh, and finally presents the arguments of those who called it haram, responding to each one in detail in Ihya Ulum al-Din. Under the proof of the permissibility of listening to music, Ghazali writes, to say that listening to music is haram means that Allah will punish those who listen to it. But this cannot be known by reason alone. Therefore, we must rely on texts and reasoning. If there is no clear text or correct reasoning, then the claim that music is haram has no basis. After analyzing all opinions and comparing the evidences, Ghazali concluded that music cannot have a single ruling. It can be haram, makruh, mubah, or mustahab, depending on the situation and intention. His classifications. For young people filled with worldly desires, music that excites those feelings is haram. For someone who makes music a daily habit, it is makruh. For someone who listens simply to enjoy a beautiful voice without any bad thoughts, it is mubah. For someone whose heart is filled with the love of Allah and who feels music awakens only noble emotions, it becomes mustahab, recommended. Ghazali also listed 5 specific cases that can make music haram. If the singer is a woman and the listener fears her voice will awaken sexual desire. If the musical instrument is associated with sinful gatherings involving alcohol. If the lyrics contain words against Islamic belief or morality. If a person becomes obsessed with music and it only triggers lustful feelings. And if music wastes one's time and prevents useful work. Ihya Ulum al-Din, page 279. His approach was serious, disciplined, and nuanced. The permissibility of music depends not on the sound itself, but on how it is performed, the intention behind it, and the effect it has on the listener's heart. That Ibn Hazm's evidence are according to Ibn Hazm. Music and singing are among the things that are mubah, permissible. He said, to declare something haram means to claim that Allah has forbidden it. If Allah or His Messenger has not clearly forbidden it, no one has the right to declare haram based on their own reasoning. Those who say music is haram have no authentic evidence, Sahih and AS, to support their claim that on Quranic evidence. Ibn Hazm rejected the interpretation that the phrase la al-hadith in Surah Luqman verse 6 refers to music. He explained that this phrase is general, meaning idle or useless talk, and cannot be limited to music alone. Therefore, there is no verse in the Quran that declares music haram. On hadith evidence. Ibn Hazm stated that the hadiths used to claim the prohibition of music are either weak or misinterpreted. He criticized the hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari that says some people from this ummah will consider alcohol, silk, adultery, and musical instruments as halal. He pointed out that this hadith appears in Bukhari as mu'allaq, meaning its chain of narration, isnad, is incomplete and therefore cannot be considered fully authentic. He also noted that one of the narrators, Hisham ibn Ammar, was described by some hadith scholars as weak due to mistakes in transmission. For these reasons, Ibn Hazm concluded that no strong hadith exists that clearly forbids music. Ibn Hazm also highlighted authentic hadiths in which the Prophet allowed young girls to play the daf and sing in his home, and noted there is no ijma, consensus, among the companions that music was haram. He believed that pleasure in a beautiful sound is part of human nature, fitra. Declaring this natural gift haram would be against the way Allah created humans. Music itself is not harmful. What makes it haram is its content and context. If lyrics promote sin or immorality, or music is mixed with alcohol or immoral gatherings, is haram. But if it brings peace, joy, or remembrance of Allah to the heart, it is mubah, even beneficial. Ibn Hazm's final conclusion: music and singing are halal. Any prohibition applies only to corrupt content or sinful use. A general statement such as music is haram has no basis in Islamic texts that Rumi, Sima, and Ibn Arabic for Rumi. Music is the voice of the soul turning toward Allah. In the opening verses of the Masnavi, when he describes the cry of the reed flute, nay, he is speaking about the human soul. Listen to the reed, how it tells a tale, complaining of separations. The nay symbolizes the human being lamenting its separation from its true home, Allah. Music becomes a spiritual language expressing both humanity's distance from Allah and its longing to return. Sama is the manifestation of divine love, the state in which the Sufi, overwhelmed by love for Allah, enters spiritual ecstasy through dhikr, ilahi, or music. Sama is not itself an act of worship, but a state that leads to worship. Rumi makes one thing clear: Sama is not a game of the ego. When done only for entertainment or worldly pleasure, it becomes haram. When performed to remember Allah and feel divine love, it is halal, even virtuous. He said, "Whoever feels joy when Allah is mentioned, for him, Sama is halal. But whoever performs Sama for worldly reasons, for him, it is haram." When joined with faith, music and Sama become acts of devotion. When joined with the ego, they turn into heedlessness. Ibn Arabi shared a kindred vision. For him, sound and rhythm are reflections of the divine mysteries of creation. When Allah said Kun, be, creation came into existence, and this command was the first divine sound. Thus, existence itself began with music, and every sound in the universe is a resonance of that original Kun. If music turns the heart toward Allah, it becomes a heavenly instrument. If it directs the heart toward worldly desires, it becomes a veil of the ego. He taught that everything in the universe remembers Allah. The wind, the waves, the birds, all produce sounds that are forms of divine music. This understanding fits perfectly with his concept of Wadat al-Wujud. Every sound is a reflection of one single voice, the voice of Allah. Al-Farabi and IBN are USHD according to Al-Farabi. Music is a science built upon mathematical order and proportion. His most important work, Kitab al-Masiki al-Kabir, became a foundational source for the study of music in the Islamic world and in Europe for centuries. For Farabi, music is not random entertainment, but a mathematical and spiritual discipline. He studied the ratios of sounds, explaining that every note and melody reflects the cosmic harmony of creation. He also considered music a tool for healing the soul and moral education. Each melody awakens different emotions. Some makams bring sadness and self-reflection. Some bring joy. Some inspire courage. For this reason, Farabi called music the medicine of the soul. When used properly, it strengthens character and purifies the heart. But without moderation, it becomes a toy of the ego. Ibn Rushd, Averroes, was a philosopher, Maliki jurist, and physician. He believed that music is a natural human need. The love of beauty is part of fitra, so enjoying a beautiful sound is as natural as admiring a landscape. To deny it is to deny human nature. For Ibn Rushd, proper melodies can shape human character. If music creates balance and peace in the soul, it is beneficial. If it stirs chaos, it becomes harmful. He considered moderate and meaningful music permissible and viewed melodic dhikr, or chanting, as a valuable part of devotion. As a physician, he also saw music as psychological therapy. Melody and rhythm can influence the heartbeat, breathing, and emotional state. This idea later became the foundation for the Ottoman tradition of healing through music. Today's context, and as many scholars agree, that the way music is used and its impact on the listener determine whether it is permissible or impermissible. 3 principles guide this. First, the role of intention, niyya. In Islam, actions are judged by intentions. Indeed, actions are, but by intentions. Bukhari and Muslim. If someone listens to sensual or vulgar music to enjoy its immoral messages, it becomes a sin. If someone listens to upbeat, non-explicit music to boost their mood without neglecting religious duties, many scholars would argue this is not sinful. Second, the impact of music, ather. If music motivates good behavior, uplifting, inspiring lyrics, it can be seen as neutral or even positive. If music leads to sinful behavior, it becomes problematic. Third, practical application. Haram music includes explicit or vulgar content that makes one neglect prayer or leads to sinful actions. Halal music includes instrumental, uplifting, or neutral music that does not contradict Islamic values. Music can be considered permissible as long as it brings a person closer to Allah, or at least does not distance them from Him. When it prevents a person from fulfilling their religious duties or leads them toward lust and worldly desires, enters the forbidden, haram, domain. Remember the hadith. What is halal is clear, and what is haram is clear, and between them are doubtful matters. Bukhari and Muslim. So and each person knows themselves best. As the saying goes, whoever knows themselves knows their Lord. A true believer must seek Allah's pleasure in every action. If something cannot be done in the presence of Allah, it should not be done in private, for that is the path of heedlessness. Even so, Islam does not forbid joy or pleasure within lawful limits. As Imam Rabbani wrote in his Maktabat, the Sharia encompasses all true forms of happiness. The halal circle is wide enough for joy and satisfaction. Therefore, music, kept within moral and spiritual bounds, can remain a lasting source of beauty, comfort, and deep remembrance of Allah.